Yes, so I'm Reese Proud, and I am a student at the University of Cambridge. I mean, yeah, it's pretty well acknowledged that there is an issue in Japan with the over-sexualization of children.
Why?
I mean, it is. I mean, if you look in anime, there's much more normalized standards of how children are being basically sexualized. Even little things like children taking their top off and their trousers off to reveal underwear and things. It's much more accepted in Japanese TV than it is in UK TV. And it's even in animes which aren't particularly romantic or anything. It's just much more accepted as the norm, which is strange. But then you also have the issue with young teenage girls as well wearing ridiculously short skirts, which is again supporting this over sexualization of women who are underage, basically. But I think it also, I don't know, it sort of also links to Japanese ages of consent as well, and how they massively differ between how they work in the UK. So my understanding is in Japan, the age of consent is between 13 and 18, depending on another person who's also 13 and 18, which is probably a much better system in terms of actually educating children, educating children and teenagers in how sex actually works, and also sort of not having these really ridiculous, arbitrary lines where at the age of 15 you're not responsible, but at the age of 16 you are, which doesn't make sense and doesn't blanket across everyone. But then it also serves the problem where if you're a 13-year-old dating an 18-year-old, that's okay, which is also probably not. But then you have the issue where how do we gauge the maturity emotionally of people? Because that's what actually matters at the end of the day, how emotionally mature someone actually is. And that's really hard to gauge. And then we use age, chronological age, to sort of judge that. But you can meet 21-year-olds who are very, very immature emotionally, as you can meet 15-year-olds who are quite emotionally mature. So, yeah, it's a really difficult argument to make. Yes, it is. I mean, yeah, it's the same as any kind of attraction, really. I mean, basically, it depends. I mean, pretty much any fetish is weird, let's face it. I mean, because why would we be sexually attracted to anything that wasn't explicitly the opposite gender? Why is it that people are sexually attracted to, for example, there's a ridiculous number of examples, spoons, BDSM, silk, even silk. Why would people be attracted to silk? It doesn't really make sense. But yeah, I mean, also this is sort of a more clinical side of it though, because it has the potential to actually genuinely cause harm. But I mean, yeah, it is a mental disorder in the sense that we should possibly be able to treat it, because I don't think I can word this properly. Yeah, because I mean, it is a fetish as any other, but it's one that is dangerous for other people. So it is one that we should be able to treat. But also, how do we actually go about treating these fetishes is not particularly well researched. How can we help people to not feel this sense of attraction, which is not normal? We don't really know. We also run into the problem where if we try and do this research, then people are going to get really angry and say that we're helping paedophiles. When actually, no, we're trying to help the children, which would have been their victims. But it means that trying to find funding and trying to actually do the research to find these things out is really difficult to do. How do we find out that people are paedophiles? Unless they actually go out and do something that they really, really shouldn't. I mean, yeah, people are not going to admit it. And part of that is because we're in this sort of culture where they are looked as basically the scum of the entire planet, which is not particularly helpful or productive. So we should really be able to be in some kind of position where I could say to someone that I'm feeling attracted to young children and I want to get help. How do I do this? And we should have this sort of support mechanism in place. But we just don't. They're pretty much just criminalised. It's a difficult one. I mean, also, it's sort of based on this idea of having a binary between being completely in control of your actions or not in control of your actions at all, which doesn't really make sense. So the idea, for example, the difference between manslaughter and murder is in a murder you plan to kill someone, whereas in a manslaughter you didn't mean to kill someone, but you did. So it's sort of this implied sense where either in control of our actions and meant to do it or didn't, basically. But again, it's much more difficult. For example, how would you then put the case where, for example, Ian Brady and Myra Hindley? What about Myra Hindley? So if your boyfriend really wants you to commit this murder, and he pressures you and says that you have to do this, I'm going to break up with you, and then you then go on and kill this person, how responsible are you? Or how responsible is the person that pressured you into doing it? I think, for example, there's a system in Denmark, but I may be wrong, where the way they do it is instead of saying that you're either responsible or not responsible for your actions, they have a scale of 0 to 5. And if you were on the scale of 0, you had no control of your actions whatsoever. You were basically in a complete psychotic episode, and you had no idea what you were doing. And at 5, you were in full control of your actions. It was completely premeditated. You basically planned it, which is a much better system. But again, it raises the problem of what's 0 and what's 5, and what's the difference between a 0 and a 1, or a 1 and a 2. But it is a better system than just this binary of you're either completely responsible or you're not.